All right, it's the debut of our audience questions segment. This will be, instead of just some quick voicemails at the end of the show, we'll actually take some questions. Janelle wrote to us. She said, I hear from my conservative friend that taxes are slavery and theft. I'm never really sure how to counter this. Okay, this is a very popular libertarian argument, which is that taxes are theft because as the taxpayer, you've not opted in to the system of paying taxes, and that you're choosing to work and taxes are just being taken from you. And that if you don't pay them, ultimately the government will show up with guns and take you to jail if you don't pay. So that it is a form of theft. They are stealing your wages and or slavery. This is ridiculous. So the best way to go about this is to say, listen, number one, taxation is part of a social contract, okay? So you're paying for taxes in exchange for services from the government. And if you are to say, well, I never personally opted into that system, you did in one of two ways. You were either born in this country, now your parents had legal custody of you as a child, and therefore by choosing to birth you in the United States, they opted you into the social contract. If you disagree with that, then you must disagree with the concept of parental custody, in which case you would be arguing that 3-year-olds should be legally independent of their parents. Very few people would do that, even libertarians. If you weren't born here, then when you moved to this country, or if you were a minor, when your parents chose to move you to this country, again, you agreed to the social contract in which taxation exists. Putting that aside, going beyond the fact that you agreed to the social contract, there are actually many options that you have. You can say, all right, I don't like the social contract with taxation, so I'm going to work to amend it. You have that option. You could work to change the social contract. If you don't think you would be successful, well, that's because other people may not agree with you, that they would rather have no government services in exchange for paying no taxes. You could leave the social contract where taxation exists by going to a different country. Now, if you come back and say, well, other countries have taxes too, that's their problem. That has nothing to do with the U.S. having taxes. You could violate the taxation social contract by just choosing not to pay your taxes and then take your chances, right? You do have that choice. It may not work that well for you. Or you could ultimately try to revolt against the government, which people have done historically. That may or may not work well. So this idea that people are forced into paying taxes unilaterally with no agreement is ridiculous, isn't it, Lewis?
It is ridiculous. I suggest, if you want to put it simply to them, say, well, why don't you just move to a country that has no taxes, list a few of them off, see if they like the sound of that, and tell them that if there never were any taxes, they'd probably be speaking German right now. Tell them that too. See how they respond to that.
Some libertarians will say that if there is a contract, it needs to be physically signed. Take them to a restaurant, have them order food, and see if they think it's okay to walk out without paying, because, hey, social contract, smotional contract, there was no physical contract signed here. I don't owe any money for the food I ordered, right? I mean, that's essentially what you're saying if you say it needs to be a written contract that I physically sign. So excellent question, Janelle. Very juvenile argument, really, from the libertarian side on that. This is viewer-supported independent media. Please support our program by going to davidpakman.com/membership and becoming